Hey, lovely people. It's me, Jessica Hicks, and I'm a corporate recruiter. Some of you may already know this, but over the past year or so, I've been working with a large media brand, an online media brand. And I like to share a couple of tips for editors when they are applying to become an editor at an online media company. Particularly, they'll be applying to a brand underneath the umbrella of the media company. So let's get into it. The number one thing is most editing jobs that I've seen are not strictly editing. So you'll want to understand whether the job has a portion of time where you're writing content and the portion of time where you're editing content from others. Now, a strong writer, strong editor is typically what folks are looking for. So that's number one. So you'll want to have a portfolio. You want to have some writing samples, right? You want to provide a cover letter and a really solid resume. The next thing that you'll want to have, and I think it's a plus factor for someone that is going to be an editor, is experience directly working with writers, whether they're freelance or staff writers, but you want to have the experience where you are assigning, you're assigning work to writers or assigning topics, right, for them to write about, and particularly working with freelancers and maybe even having a network of freelancers that you can have work with the brand. That's always a nice plus factor, is having really solid freelance writers. Number three is going to be SEO. Now, this is a plus factor oftentimes, but sometimes we had the case where we needed someone with some SEO experience. Now, wouldn't be your in-depth technical SEO experience. Generally, what our hiring teams are looking for are more in line with just having an understanding of SEO, keywords, optimizing keywords, right? And knowing what's trending and how to weave in certain things for writers to really optimize stories to get more views. At the end of the day, digital media firms are all about the views. So anything that you can do to engage readers, capture their attention, and get them to click and read that story. All right, the next one is going to be knowledge of the brand. Interviewing. During the interview, you have to discuss why you're so interested in their brand in particular. Where I see people go wrong is they just talk about the media company overall, but the media company has many brands oftentimes. So what you're going to want to talk about is their brand and why you connected so well with that brand and wanted to be an editor there. Next is going to be the assessment. Every editor job, every writing job, every production job, a lot of jobs within the editorial world are going to have a requirement of an edit test or some type of assessment, right? So with the edit test, where I see people go wrong is either they're not asking questions before starting on their assessment, or they're not taking the sufficient time to make sure there are no errors in what they're submitting. Grammar, spelling, punctuation. You're an editor, so I've seen candidates get passed over even though they have great experience, even though they had a great personality, they connected with the brand, they connected with the hiring team. Then they submitted that edit test and it was all over from there because there were errors. So just make sure you're putting forth your best work, showcasing your editing skills, because we want to have the nice edited content out there, right? So make sure that you're all buttoned up from that angle, and you should do well and get that editing job. Now, what we discussed so far, being able to be a writer and an editor, you need to know about the job. What's the split between writing and editing? Because sometimes it's not just solely editing, which is kind of nice. A lot of people like to be able to still write stories and be an editor. Working with freelance writers, having a network of writers, always a plus. SEO skills, always a plus. Using SEO tools, knowing how to get writers to use certain SEO techniques, being able to even teach someone something. And of course, using them yourself to plug in what's needed to get more value, right? In terms of search, in terms of viewership. Lastly, knowing the brand, always a plus, always a need. You have to know the brand. You have to know why you want to work there at that brand. That's a winner whenever you can talk about that, of course. You're probably not going to go far if you don't really know the brand, because you can't talk about why you want to work at that brand. Lastly, ace the assessment. Take the time to ace the assessment. Ask what questions are needed before you start the assessment. With that, those are my tips for anyone that is going to be an editor. If you're trying to become an editor at an online media brand, use these tips as you pursue that job, and I hope you get it. I hope this video is helpful. And if it is helpful, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, lovely people.